Hello Voodoo family. Today we speak about textures and UV mapping projection. And we will speak especially about materials. Now the light, the materials and textures are very important because they will make sense with light. And then the light that we set up last week will make much more sense with the object we created, because actually a material in the real life is actually reflecting or absorbing or transmitting or emitting light. Now, the materials in our real world are actually made by the color, some transparencies, refraction, specularity, reflection, and some textures. Let's see some example. For example, this is a green glass. Okay, for example, the color is of course green. It has 100% transparency, and the refraction, for example, is this effect that we have when you see me through the glass, is the deformation it has, which has different coefficient. For example, the water has its own, a glass or crystal have another one, etc. Then also there is some, roughness or glossiness on top of it, and if I touch it, will also show some fingerprints. Now, for example, other material can be a normal glass, or for example, some material which is a bit more complicated, like can be this candle, where there is a texture, there is a color. Now this is kind of hard to define, but it's kind of an olive dark green color, and then there is a very strange texture full of scratches and imperfections. Now all these things can be created in Blender. Let's see some example. Let's jump in Blender. Okay, I prepared already something to show, which is, for example, a plane and a sphere. Now we are used to see things in object mode. Now what you can do is also now seeing in, as we said last time, render view. Now if I go in render view, because this is a new file, there is nothing set up. Okay, now the render view, there is two different render view. There is one, actually there is two render engine inside Blender. There is one which is called Eevee and is good for gaming, and many people use it for NFT as well. There is another one which is Cycles, and is the one I like. Usually Cycles work with a very good GPU card, and if you don't have a GPU card, probably it's going to take a lot of time to render the image, but this rendering setting is very good for high quality photographic result. Okay, then realistic texturing. Okay, let's see what happened. Now why we see all gray, and for example, if I click on my object, I can go on the panel shading, and here I can create my material. How? Okay, there is a material panel here, and here there is this space which is called node editor, where the material will be shown like a lot of different nodes together, and it's kind of, it seems complicated, but it's not. Let's see what happens if I add a new material. Apparently doesn't happen anything, and even and you have this block here which is referring to many different input, which are referred to all the things we said until now. For example, the color it has, I can put, for example, a red color, and now you see something changing. And for example, if it's metallic or not. Okay, for example, if you see here, there is a preview which show how it will look like. But now why we don't see anything on our, for example, if I make it completely reflective like a mirror, why I don't see anything around? Because it's our world around the object that is gray. Then somehow all this grayness is reflecting, and then you don't see anything. That's the first important thing. And in materials, the things that the object will reflect is important. Okay, let's say this glass here is reflecting all this room around me included. Then somehow that the world around it makes sense. Then how to set it up? This is one of the most important things to do at the beginning. You can go in this panel, which is called World Panel, And you see here you have this color of the world. It can be whiter, darker, etc. But I can even put a spheric image. What is a spheric image? It's an image which is called HDRI. You can see here, for example, you have a website which is called polyheaven.com, where if you go in HDRIs, you can see there is like this equirectangular picture. It's actually a spheric picture, a 360 picture that is actually open on a rectangular plane, then is stretched out on a rectangular. And then of course if you click on one of them, you can even download them for free. You can see also the effect that this image will have around your materials. Then if you have like a metallic sphere, you will see all the world reflected like this. But for example, okay, then you can create your own, for example, using Google Street View with your iPhone. Then, you know, like if you have to recreate your own room, you can use Google Street View, and then you send the picture through email, etc., etc., or you use a 3D60 camera, etc., etc. For example, I want to show you now how I reflect in my object my studio. Then I create a spheric image of my studio, and I put this in the world environment of my project, and then my studio will reflect inside. Then how to do? Okay, you click on the color of the world, and instead to put any of this, you choose environment texture. Then you go in the environment texture, you open your texture. I have already HDRI collected in my computer, and I will take my studio, which is gonna be this. And now what you see is all my studio reflecting inside the object. Okay, now the interesting thing here is that, as you can see, the light of the studio will have an effect on the shadow of the object. Then this object is actually projecting a shadow underneath, because in my studio, being a photographic studio, the light is very homogeneous. Okay, let's see what we can do with this object. Now here you have all the information about this object. Then what color is, if it's metallic or not metallic, for example. You have the specularity. What is the specularity? Let's remove the metallic part, and look, if I go up with specularity or down, you see what happens is actually how it reflects, the reflection of the surrounding of the object. Then for example, if I make it completely rough, you see, if I go up with specular and I make it a bit more, no, a bit less rough, sorry, you see this border become more bright. Okay, then something, you know, like for example velvet, which absorb a lot, is not specular at all. Porcelain is very specular, for example. Okay, then we have other stuff. For example, transmission. If I make transmission, this object will transmit what is behind, and then you see it will be like a sphere. You see like this softbox, and then you see the refraction, how it works, like if it's a crystal sphere. And of course this is the transmission that makes things transparent. And then there is another thing, which is emission. I can transform this object in a lamp. For example, I can put like emission color red, and then if I use the emission strength, this is gonna become a light, and it's gonna project light around it. Okay, now what I can do with this, now this concept is called procedural. I can put many input here, and then I can create something out of my object. Let's of the materials, sorry. Then let's start from scratch somehow. Let's remove this emission strength, and I don't want any emission, but let's try to play with the textures. For example, I can create, okay, then we said that an object is made by its own transparency, reflection, the color itself, but also, as I said, in this case, of the candle can usually there is a texture on top of it, which make everything like irregular, like can be like the surface of wood or the surface of this candle with scratches, etc. For example, I was speaking about fingerprints, and if I use a texture to play, the fingerprints usually are affecting, sorry, let's add a bit of specular to see better the reflection. Okay, are affecting my reflection. Then if I put some fingerprints on top, I have to put them inside the roughness map. Then can I use instead this roughness on top of all the image, an image that will apply roughness only in some part of the object? Yes, I can. Now I collected some images, and one of these is this. This is an image in black and white of some fingerprints. This I found it on web. And then I will apply this image on top of the sphere. And then what is black will be completely glossy. What is white, it will be rough, and then it will be more matte. Let's see how it works. Then I will go here and press Shift A, as every time I have to create something new, Shift A, and I will search for image texture. Now I create this block, which is called image texture, and I go from the color to the roughness. Now inside this block I have to put the fingerprint thing, image. Then I open, I go in my folder where it's supposed to be. Sorry, I have to search for this. 1 second. Production. Sorry for that. Okay. Textures. Okay, I here prepare some image we will work later with. Then I take my fingerprints, open, and now if we go around, we might be able, we have to add a light, of course. I actually add a light already, and with this point light we can add a bit more power. Probably now we will see the effect of some fingerprints. Let's put the color lower, and now you see here on my object there is some fingerprints. Now it's not very easy to see here. You see here there is one of them. Okay, now what can I also do? I can also put different texture. Then here I use an image texture to create this effect. I can also generate texture. Let's see how. And you see here in this block there is some different color of this button. Okay, one is a color, yellow color means that you can put image with in RGB, then it's in color. When is in gray, he might need a black and white picture, and then indeed our fingerprint image is in black and white. When is blue is referred to something else, to something that will have will do something in 3D on top of the surface. Then let's see what happens if I add on the normals, and it's actually what has to do with the surface, and the imperfection of the surface is the normal. Then I will add a node which is called bump, and it's self-explanatory because it's the bumpiness of the surface. I will put this bump here, and I will introduce this normal to normal. You see that is purple to purple, and then I will introduce a new texture, but it's not an image this time. It's going to be a noise. Let's see, Shift A, I will search for noise, and I find noise texture. And let's see what is this. If you have, as I said at the beginning, in the preference add-on, you have the node wrangler activated, you might be able to do this. If you Control Shift click on the noise texture, you will see how this noise texture will be applied on top of your object. If I go up and down with the scale, you see what is going to do. Then it's somehow taking this image and put it on top of everything. Now let's see what happened when I use this texture inside the height of the bump, and I reconnect the overall, node, shader node is called, to the output, you see, now I have this imperfection, which is called procedural. I can play with the scale, I can play with the strength of this, and now I can do something which is more materic. Okay, if I go, then I can mix things like this, and I can go in something that is even very, very complicated. For example, now I show you this thing that is actually made on top of my skin, and is a node made by all these things, okay, which is maybe more complicated. Okay, now let's jump in our project. Now let's jump in our project and let's see what we can do. Now, last time we were placing lights, we had some backgrounds, we had our body, our bodies, and now, just to show you what I've done, I want to start again, and then I show you what I've done. It's like putting texture in a different way. I will show you what we have. Okay, then let's start from the background, and let's go in render view. Okay, this is the render view. Sorry, I remove my studio behind because I can still visualize it on the reflection, but I want to remove from the viewport. How to do? We'll go in the render view, and in film we press transparent, and then this is gonna disappear. Okay, now I have two backgrounds. Okay, the first one, you see, one I did it with procedural like I did now, and this is gonna be my object view. What I've done here, actually, what I've done here is creating, now the object was created the last time, and then this is the material I created. Actually, it is blue material. This is very simple. Actually, there is a blue material which has some roughness from this image, which is an image of black rock. Is this one? Let's see if I can show bigger. Actually not. Okay, it's actually a rock image that I took from web. Then I actually put this rock image on top of it, and then I use the rock image as not as image, because in the base color of the material is this light blue, but I put it as roughness and as normal. Then somehow it creates all these wrinkle effects. Okay, but now there is something interesting, which is this room made with bricks. Okay, if I go in camera view and I see how it look like, it looked like pretty realistic. If I add a light, look what happened, and I put a light close to the bricks, you will see that these bricks project shadow around, and they have some reflection or reflection. Let's see how I've done. Okay, let's take this material, which is called brick wall, and remove it, and I will do it again. Now we have our cube here now, and I download this image, which is called brick wall. Okay, and I cut it, and it's just an image, a JPEG image. I save it PNG. Actually, I didn't do anything. This was already a PNG, but sometimes, when you work with JPEG and if you have to elaborate in Photoshop, it's always better to save on a PNG which is not compressed, because if you save JPEG twice, you will recompress the image and then you will lose quality. Then somehow I create a new material. I call it wall 2, and what I will do, I will change the color in an image texture. Now, before I did it by clicking here, Shift A, add image texture. You can also do like this. You press on this yellow button here and you go on image texture. Now, this is gonna be created here. Now, because there is no image, it look black. I will open it and I will put workshop project, textures, brick wall, and I will put the brick wall inside. Now, as you can see, if I go in render mode, it's very flat. You see, there is nothing that show like a real brick. Actually, it's let's put back another light, Shift A, light point. You see, if I, because you see it's pretty flat, the effect. Now, how to play with that? Okay, this is a trick. Okay, this is not the real way how to do, because usually you can use texture, procedural texture of brick wall, but this is how to do by yourself, and then it's actually interesting. You take the image and you use the image itself to connect not only in the base color but also in the roughness. And now you see, for example, where there is the cement is not rough anymore, it's rough, and where there is the brick is not. What you can do is applying a gradient map, which is called, you can do Shift A, search ramp, color ramp is actually a gradient which is actually reinterpreting the point of all this black point and white. Then somehow the white is the roughness. Then if I go up with the white, you see there is much less glossiness. If I go up with the glossiness, which is the black, it will become like a glass which has the color of bricks. Then, for example, I found this kind of interesting. It's kind of similar to what bricks does somehow. And also now we miss a bit of three dimension between the bricks and the cement. Then how to do? As well as I did before, we can take a normal, then we take Shift A, we take a bump node, we put it in the normal, and then now I take again this image and put it in the height and see what happened. You see, now unfortunately this picture is very low res, then somehow we see all the pixel of the JPEG compression, but if you pull it down, you see now at some point it starts being, you know, more three-dimensional. Now, when I put this image, you see that this image is already very well mapped on the cube. Let's see what is the mapping. Let's say if I want to change the direction of the cube, or I want to put something different, or I want to scale them down, how I do? Okay, this is called the UV projection. Then somehow every single face of my object is projected on its own texture. Then there is a panel which is called the UV editing, and where you see actually your cube in edit mode. You have to be in edit mode, how this is open in this UV map texturing. How to do this? Okay, how I did it. You have to inform, you know, the software how to open this box. You know, it's like if you have a box and you have to cut some parts to open it. Then you have to indicate where to cut the thing. I will do it again, or I will show you how to do. You see, if I go here in mode, object mode, you see like this. In edit mode, you see these lines are red. Then how I did, I just select the edge of this cube like this. I select this, the part I want to cut, and then I press U, and then you do mark sim, and then after you do select all, U, unwrap. When it's unwrapping, you see things like that. And then if I go, now you will understand, if I go in material view, you see that now wherever is pointing, this is that face. Look, this face, if I select face by face, is pretty clear is that one. This one is next to it. This, next, next, next. Then if I select all of them, they are here. Then somehow if I rotate 45, now I have the right orientation of my bricks. And if I scale up here in this panel, I will scale down all of them. If I want to modify only one of them, for example, I can take this one and say, okay, I want to rotate 45. Now this one will be rotated only. Then somehow this is what is UV projecting. What I can do here, for example, is to change material to the floor and the ground if I want. And for example, what I can do is adding a new material and call it, for example, floor ceiling, and then now select the part I want to change in edit mode and assign this new material. And then now I have a room which is made by two different layers, two different material. One is the brick with the material inside, and one is just a white layer that I just created. Okay, then let's see our bodies. Okay, here I play around with, for example, a skin that a plastic skin that I created. Now I would like to show you how this look like. Let me go on the rendering setting and add a bit of more. Okay, you see this, all this kind of effect like skin. Let me see if we go even closer. Okay, here you see all this noise, all this like the little lines that always we have on the skin. Let's see how this is made, and I wanted it like fake, a bit plasticky. Then okay, first of all, okay, I went with this base color of like a normal white skin. Then I put some noise, which on top of it look like this. Control Shift click. You see, this is a noise that gives a bit of imperfection. And then I add other two texture. One is this, which is actually all the little wrinkles we have on the skin, which is mixed. You see, with this multiply mixer is actually taking this one and this one and mix together. Then if I see them after mixing, this is the result. There is one and the other one, which is mixing again with the overall I create at the beginning in this one, and then at the end it becomes like this. And now while you do one skin, for example, I can create, I did one first plastic skin. I want to change the skin color, for example, and make all the skin color I want. I can create, for example, I can take another object, and this I did it already, but I can do this. I can create a new skin color by do a new material. Then this is a bit tricky, but it's very interesting. I can search again for the same material, skin 1, and then now I have the both of them, the same one copied. Then here I will push on this button that is create a copy, a new material out of this one I have, and I will call it, I have already skin 2, I call it 3. I'd say okay, and at this point what I can do, if I remove the skin 1 from my object and now I go on skin 3 and I play with the colors, I can put the color of the skin that I prefer. Now, sorry, here it doesn't work. I don't know why. Wait a second. Yes, because I'm sorry. This is the skin of before. Sorry. For that, I have to go on edit mode, take skin 3, and why is not changing? That's funny. Sorry. This and change these colors. Okay, sorry, from here. I don't know why here is not refreshing the thing. I don't know why, but and then from one material you can create as much as you want. All your material you created remain here. Then, for example, I can even put the wall on top of him. Okay, then now you see how the UV mapping here is projected funky. And then I go back on my skin one, and then okay, let's see if I want to create an object out of an image and use the image to project it as a texture. Then it's gonna take maybe 5-10 minutes. I already created this object, which is in the accessories, and I create this chicken. How I did this chicken? Okay, let's try to redo it. Okay, I create actually, let's put it in the center. Okay, I actually create this chicken from this image. You see, I have an image which I imported by doing Shift A, image as plain is an image that I downloaded previously, and then out of this image I build up a chicken from a cube, very basic. Now this chicken didn't have any material. Let's remove it. Now how can I put some material on it? I can create a new material, call it chicken one, because I have already a chicken. I again search for the image and I say I want an image texture here. Sorry, here I don't understand why it's not showing me the material I have. Let's go in here, shading. Okay, then I will put the image of my chicken. Sorry, workshop project, and textures, chicken. Okay, now if I go in material, I see that is already mapped. But why? Because when let's try to remove the mapping. 1 second. Projection, for example. Okay, it might be that when you project, you put the image on top of your object, it doesn't match perfectly. Then how to make it match perfectly? You go in edit mode, and however is the object, the UV mapping, what you have to do is to position the image exactly like it was when you were creating the object, and then press U, and instead to unwrap the object in a funny way, like for example smart unwrap, it will do something like this, and you see any single face is placed in a funny way. You do like this, you project from view, then you are actually reprojecting the image as is in the picture exactly on the object. But if the object comes from the picture, the two things will match. Then somehow you see I have this object. Okay, I can put it, I can make a sky, chicken, or a street kid chicken, or I can put it here, scale it up, put it together, scale up, and then at the end my result is gonna be exactly like this. As before, this image, this chicken, is not very nice because it's missing everything else, like bumpiness, etc. And it's actually what I've done in the previous material. If I go on chicken material, for example, if you see it in rendering view, we can add bumpiness, like bumpiness and everything else, okay, to make it more real. Thank you very much. See you next time. Bye bye. Have a nice day.